Hey everyone, it's Lainey. Welcome back to Crafted by Lucas. In today's tutorial, we are going to be making a Mother's Day card using a project from Cricut Design Space. We are going to tweak it a little bit to make it compatible with the Cricut Joy Xtra, but don't worry, I'll show you how to do that step by step. It's super simple and it's such a great craft for you to recreate. I'm also going to be using the Cricut Joy Xtra Light Grip Mat, so no card mat needed for this tutorial as well. I've pulled some cardstock. This is a pinkish purple color. This is from Concord and Ninth. This is a brand of cardstock I use for handmade cards, and I really liked this color, and it matched with this really nice floral pattern from Hobby Lobby. This did come in a paper stack from the Paper Studio. I've used this on the channel before a couple of times, and I'm bringing it right back in because it's so pretty and perfect for the season. I also am going to incorporate some silver, and lastly, I've got some scrap white cardstock just in case, because I'm not quite sure on how I want this to look in the end. I've got the general idea, but not 100% sure. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump in Cricut Design Space. I'll find the project and then we will tweak things in the canvas and get this cut out. So here we are in the home screen of Cricut Design Space. Let's go ahead and go to the canvas and get started. I'm going to access the canvas in the top here on the top left-hand side. I'm going to click on the canvas tab, and here we are in the canvas. I need to look through some of the projects. So let's go ahead and select projects on the left-hand side toolbar. And I already have this project bookmarked. So I'm going to select bookmarked projects. And this is for Mother's Day. So let's type in Mother's Day card and press enter. And now it is searching the Mother's Day cards that I've got bookmarked. And now I just need to scroll through these and find the one that I want to use for today. And here is the card here. I really like the mom with the flower. In the center, it really is giving 90 vibes. I thought this was super cute. So let's go ahead and edit a copy. Because like I said in the intro, we are going to have to change some things just to make sure that it's compatible with the Joy Xtra. You can see here that there are some error message popping up, and that is indicating that it's not equipped for the Joy Xtra at this moment. So you can see here in the layers panel that this says envelope. We're not going to be making the envelope today. If you had a larger machine that has a scoring tool, you could most definitely make the envelope. But because the Cricut Joy Xtra does not have a scoring tool, we're just going to go ahead and bypass this part. So I'm going to select this eye here, and that's going to be hidden. And now it's removed from the canvas. And this design has some alternative options for you. These two shapes here. If for some reason you didn't want this particular scalloped cut out with the little circles, you could switch it for this or even this shape here. So these two shapes need to be removed. So I'm going to go ahead and select both of them and just select delete on my keyboard. You can also select the layers in your layers panel and delete them in your layers panel as well. All right, so now we've got the card base here, and this has got an error message. So I'm going to select this little drop down here. And once again, it's saying that the score line is not compatible or not supported by the Joy Xtra. So that score line is to create a crease in the card base itself. And we can manually do that after the shape is cut out to size. So let's go ahead and do the same thing. We are going to hide that score line. And now you can see the error messages are gone, and now it is compatible with the Cricut Joy Xtra. So what we've got to work with here is the card base, this pink shape here, and ignore the colors. This is just for visual purposes, or you can even create the card in this white and pink colored if you want. I already showed you the colors that I'm using in the cardstock that I'm using, but this is just for visual purposes, or you can recreate it using just the pink and white itself. Okay, so back to what I was saying. This is the card base, and then this is going to be the panel, the white scalloped detailing there. That's going to be the panel. And then we've got a shadow layer or an outer side layer here. And then we've got the mom. So a few different cutouts. All right, so I verified all the layers. Everything seems to be okay. Our Cricut Joy Xtra machine is selected, so we can go ahead and select Make It. It's initially going to ask you if you want to save your project. I'm going to bypass this and not save. And now for this, we are not using that card mat, which is right here. We are using your standard mat. So I'm going to click on that as well, which is also really nice if you don't have your Cricut card mat. There's so many other projects that you can create just using your standard grit mat as well. So what I am doing here is moving this down because it was really close to the scalloped edge. I am just ensuring that there is space in between these separate cutouts because it's going to be different cardstock. And I just want to have enough room and I'm also paying attention to the inch marks as well, so I know where to lay my cardstock on my mat. Another neat thing that you can do in this screen is move items from one mat to another. So you can click on these 3 dots here and you can move object or even hide. So let's go ahead and go to mat 2. And once again, this is really close together. This large shape here is the card base, and then this is the shadow layer. I'm going to bring that down to like that 10-inch mark there, just to ensure enough space in between these 2 cutouts, because it's going to be different colored cardstock. Or it may be. We're not to that point yet. Okay, so we've got our mats prepped. I moved things away from each other just to make it simpler on myself. And actually, this one here can just be up next to the M because those will all be the same cardstock. Okay, so let's go ahead and click continue. All right, so my machine connected via Bluetooth, and now we need to select our materials. I'm using cardstock today. We've got heavy cardstock in 100 pound. My cardstock is not quite that thick. It's more about 80 pounds. So I'm going to go ahead and select medium cardstock and 80 pound and select done. And the first thing that I need to do is to load my cardstock on my mat and paying attention to the inch marks to make sure that I'm laying the correct cardstock in the correct spot for the correct cutting. And then I need to make sure that my fine point blade is loaded in my clamp, and then my machine is going to be ready for me to load my mat. So now let's switch to the overhead camera and prep our mat for the first cut. Okay guys, so I changed my mind. Originally I was thinking about the carnation, but I think it's just too colorful. It's too bright. So I pulled Ballet Slipper from the same brand. It's just a little softer, and I think it pairs better with the silver glitter as well. So just a simple change in paper, but we need to prep our mat. So I'm going to remove that protective film, and I'm paying attention to the inch markings here. And first thing that we're going to cut out is the panel. I'm going to click on mat number 1. And so this is going to be our panel and then our mom. So our panel is going to be in our colorful cardstock, and then our mom, let's test it out in the Ballet Slipper. And if I don't like it, then I'll cut it back out in white. But let's start prepping our mat for this. So we need to pay attention to the markings on here, the inch markings, just to make sure that everything is aligned within the window so it actually gets cut out. And then I've got the mom down here between the 6th and 7th inch mark. So I will make sure to place my paper accordingly. But first, let's browse all materials. I'm going to go ahead and select medium cardstock, which is 80 pound, and then select done. And now we just need to finish prepping our mat, and then we can load our mat into our machine. So, okay, I don't want to mess up here. We are doing our panel first, which is our pattern. And I don't think that there's a particular way that the pattern needs to be. So I'm not going to worry about the orientation. All right, so the panel is going to be cut out, and then we need the mom, and we're going to cut the mom out in the Ballet Slipper, and that is going to be cut out right underneath the panel. And so now I'm going to load the machine. And at first it registers the mat and make sure that the mat is long enough for the job, and to make sure also that the mat is aligned within the machine. And then after that is set, it will prompt us to select go on our computer. And I'm going to go ahead and select go, and it's preparing, and then the cutting will begin. And once it's done, then I'll have to select unload on the computer again to remove the mat. This is part of my laptop. I'm just able to remove my screen. So just so you know that, this is not a tablet, it's an actual laptop. Okay, so I had to move things around because the M's would have ran into this cardstock here. So I had to do that off camera, but everything is cut out now. So I'm gonna unload my mat, and I just selected unload on my computer. Now with cardstock, it's best practice to turn your mat over and bend your mat instead of your paper. You want that paper to be flat as it can be. So once again, bending that mat back. And excuse the noise in the background. We are now in a different area and we're near an army base, and there is quite a bit of planes. For those of you who may be joining for the first time, I live tiny and travel around the United States full time. So that is why I'm saying I'm in a new location. We are in Oklahoma, and we were in Texas for quite a while before that. Okay, so what I am doing is just using a poker tool here to poke out those little cutouts, those circular cutouts. And if you are new to cutting paper with your Cricut as well, another thing to note is really intricate cuts typically don't do well with thicker paper. So be mindful of that. If this was a thicker cardstock, for example, it would have not cut all of these circles out near as well, and it may even have kind of like not even cut all the way through, and some of them are jagged. It's just not very clean if this was thicker, but since this is just the right thickness, the Cricut did an amazing job. Okay, so I'm gonna move all these little circles over, and now we've got the mom in that light pink called Ballet Slipper. And now, oh, that flower's got some, it seems that my cardstock was kind of dingy. Can you pick, I don't know if that camera's picking up some of those little marks there and there. I can turn it over. This, you can tell which side has a cleaner cut, but I don't think it'll matter for this. So I'm gonna go ahead and move this stuff out of the way and bring in our mat again. So what we need to work on next is our card base. And I've got all these little circles, paper cutouts on my mat. What I'm gonna do real quick off camera is just grab a spatula and just scrape those off into my trash can. Okay, I got majority of them off. So back to the card base. I need to look at my computer. Okay, so mat number 1 is done. I selected mat number 2. I'm gonna cut the shadow layer out in the white. I did pull the silver, and I may cut the shadow layer out in the silver as well, but let's just go ahead and lay the cardstock down on this mat here. I'm gonna select 80-pound cardstock and select done. And now let's prep our mat. I'm gonna bring in my brayer tool to press down this paper, just to make sure it's really stuck down so nothing shifts. And I'm gonna repeat the process. I'm gonna load the mat and then select to go on my computer. So the cutting is done, but before I press unload on my computer, I wanna make sure that my card base cut all the way through. It seems like it did. Okay, so I'm gonna select unload on my computer. I was just concerned that my blade may have been a little dull to cut through this 80-pound cardstock. So repeating the process, turning your mat over, bending your mat instead of your paper. There is our card base. And now we've got that shadow layer or offset layer for our text, which will go like so. And then we've got the flower. Let's turn that over to the cleaner side. And then the M. And now we've got our panel. So what it's going to look like is essentially like this. If I bypass the silver at this point. So what I'm going to do is get out of this screen. So I'm going to press cancel because we need to go back one screen into this screen here so you can select the different mats and edit your mat. So let's go ahead and select mat number 2, and we just want to cut out the shadow layer. So what I want to do is remove or hide this object, hide selected, and now we've got our shadow layer there, and I'm going to bring it up to the top because that is where we've got our cardstock on our mat. So now that those are aligned, I'm going to select continue, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to select the material, which I'm probably going to select 100-pound cardstock for this glitter cardstock, just so it runs through twice. And I know that because I'm just familiar with these settings. It just takes time, but the heavy cardstock 100-pound does 2 cuts around the paper. So let me go ahead and load my mat and get the shadow layer cut out in this silver, and then we can see if we like this better. I really think the card needs a bit of a pop, but we can also bring in embellishments as well. I always forget about that. And now we've got the shadow layer. Let me turn my mat over so I don't bend to this. And that was the perfect setting for that. That cut through really, really well. Okay, so now let's test this out and see what this looks like. I think I like that. I think that that is super cute, that silver. It definitely needed the silver. Okay, so now we need to score this or fold it so we can have a top folding card in a landscape orientation. So what I'm going to do is just bend it, and keeping this very loose to not crease it, and I align these ends first the best that I can. And I'm actually probably going to lay it down on my glass mat here and use my nail just to make sure that those are aligned perfectly, holding that down. And now I'm bringing in a bone folder. Okay, so I just creased it right there in the center just to help this get creased a little bit better. Okay, so now I'm taking my bone folder. You can use your squeegee or your, what is it? You know, one of your scraper tools. You can use this instead if you don't have one of these. It's the same concept. If you have a scoring board, if you make cards, you can also use your scoring board as well. So, but I just wanted to show you how to kind of do it yourself. You know, it's not always perfect, and yes, you can kind of misalign, but for the most part, it's really simple, and you don't need all those extra fancy tools. You can just bend it yourself, and it typically works out just fine. All right, so we've got our top folding card in a landscape orientation, and I'm going to open it up and magnetize this down to my glass mat. And now let's layer this. I want to build my panel up as per usual. If you've been watching my channel for a while, you know I like to use some foam tape. So what I'm going to do is, let me think, because we've got those circles. Maybe we won't, because if I can either go over the circles and it'll just be white through, but it'll be sticky. I don't want to do that. Nope, 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 nope. What we will do is prop up the mom instead. We will build that up. So I'm going to come in with some Barely Art liquid glue and apply the glue all over the back side of our panel. Okay. So now let's turn this over. And I'm paying attention to the flowers. I think I like this direction instead. And I have a little wiggle room, so I'm going to lay that down and make sure it's aligned. It seems to be kind of shifted over a bit to the left. Okay, now I'm going to get that pressed down. I've got a little glue seepage down here. It will dry clear, so I'm going to leave it alone because I don't want to make it gunky because then it'll darken. So I'm just gonna leave that glue alone and let that dry clear. And now we've got the 2 shadow layers. Let's go ahead and just utilize what we've already cut out. I'm gonna glue these 2 layers together. It will add a little more strength to the paper, and we're not wasting materials. And then it will also be a little better to thicken this up because we're gonna build this up as well with some foam tape. Alrighty, and let's go ahead and place the mom in on top of the shadow layer. I'm gonna bring in some tweezers here. I think I should probably start with the flower first. All right, and you lay that down and get that glued down. Just holding it down for a few seconds. Let me zoom in so y'all can see this part a little bit better. We're working with littler pieces. All right, making sure that I'm placing these down on the correct side. Okay. All right, I am loving that flower power mom. That is just too cute, and we're definitely going to elevate that. So I think the best thing for this is just to use this thicker strip here. This foam tape is from Hobby Lobby. It's 5 millimeters thick. I am using non-stick scissors as well. And let me cut this in half. This is what I've been using to prop up my cards, and I really like the dimension, but it was because I make so many cards, it was starting to get in the way of storing them because I'm making them too thick, like I'm running out of storage. So after I am done with this thick foam tape, I'm gonna go to maybe like a 2 millimeter foam tape because it's just too thick. And I had to put my other cards in storage, and I really hate that because now I don't have cards to give away, and I like to look back at my progress and how much I've grown, and now they're just all in storage. Except, honestly, I only have this one. This is the only one that didn't get put in storage. How cute. It's the only one I get to enjoy. I just have it right sitting to the left of my desk on top of my alcohol marker stand. Okay. Just filling these spots in. Okay, I think that is sufficient enough. So I'm going to remove these backers. Okay. And once again, I'm going to make sure it's aligned. You could put liquid glue on top of those adhesive strips. I think it needs to be shifted over to the right just a bit. It helps give a little wiggle room if you need to shift things around. But all right. How cute. So let me pick this up so y'all can see that dimension there in the detail. All those little circles, the Cricut did a great job. All right, so let's bring in some embellishments just to finish this card up. It's perfect the way that it is, but let's see if we can add just a little more sparkle. Okay, so I think I'm just going to do a dew at the bottom instead and do the trio up the top. And you can see the glue there, it's white, but it dries clear. And I'm just kind of keeping the dewdrops close to the sentiment and then building away from that to draw the eye out to the rest of the design, which is the scallops and the little circle cutouts and things like that. So that is the finished card using the Cricut Joy Xtra machine. If you found this helpful, please give it a thumbs up. It really helps my channel and it helps other people find the video as well. I am really loving this, how this turned out. This is so cute. And if you wanted to, you could have the mom in white. It's just personal preference. You could make this so much brighter if you wanted to, bring in those greens and more of the brighter pinks or blues. So many options, but nevertheless, this is the card. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope it was helpful, and I'll see you in the next card or craft. Bye, everyone.